What's up, guys? My voice is back, but it's a little hot in Seattle, particularly for October. I actually almost didn't put this on. The Seattle rain continues to take its vacation. So let me first off start off by saying welcome again, and thanks for tuning in. Like I said before, was going to miss the majority of this game, and I did. I heard the majority of the first half on the radio on my way to rehearsal. It was halftime when rehearsal started, and it was 10-3 Seattle Seahawks. And I'm thinking, okay, once again, the offensive line is getting off to a slow start. Doug Baldwin made a nice touchdown catch. Okay, things are good, And then I'm in the middle of rehearsal, and I'm sitting there in the trombone section, and all of a sudden, as rehearsal is going on, I realize that there's a tuba player who's got his cell phone, and he's watching and keeping us up to date with the Hawks game. And so we're playing songs, and he says, I don't know what happened, but Detroit just scored, and now it's 13-10. So then they have the ball, and, I'm like, okay, well, hopefully the Legion of Boom can come through. And then I hear about 15 minutes go by, and all of a sudden I hear the tuba player going, oh my God! And I look around, and I look over, I said, what happened? And he said, the Lions fumbled at the 1-yard line. And they have no timeouts, and, there's a minute left. And as soon as he said that, I said, you know what, we got this. Now again, I hadn't seen or heard what happened with that play yet. So again, the Seattle Seahawks end up winning. People was looking on their phones during our break, and we heard about Cam Chancellor forcing the fumble, and the Legion of Boom living up to its name and such. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to come on, and I'm going to talk about a Seattle Seahawks victory. I'm going to talk about how we have almost dug completely out of the hole that we created in terms of starting 0-2. I'm going to talk about how the defense played lights out for the most part, how they haven't allowed an offensive touchdown in 2 weeks, and this should be a good video. I turn on the post-game show with my wife as we're driving home, and all of a sudden I hear the word controversy. And all I could think of was, oh no. Again, another Monday night controversial call? Really? I thought we were past this. I thought we had put the Monday night failed Mary to bed with the Packers, and how there was this small rival, as I talked about that in that video. I thought we put that to bed. And then I'd see the play, and again, the referee screwed up. My team should have lost. Okay? Maybe not have lost, but my team should have not gotten the ball back on that play. And I'll be the first to admit it. Alright? And, I understand that when your team loses or something like this happens, you want to avoid social media. You don't want to, there's several videos out there with guys yelling, throwing their jerseys, angry USC fan, sweating, yelling after they lost to UCLA a couple years ago. But, I would love to recap this game. I really would. But all I can think of right now, screw the stats and screw the prime time. How many times, there's a couple of things that bother me about this. How many times does bad officiating affect the Seattle Seahawks? How many times do we have to deal with this? When it first happened with the failed Mary, I remembered all of the questionable calls that have happened throughout the Seattle Seahawks history. The Vinny Testaverde touchdown that eventually led to the NFL installing instant replay the season after. Obviously, Super Bowl 40. I thought of the Ravens game that the Seahawks played in Baltimore in 2002 where the refs forgot to stop the clock. That wasn't the main reason, keep the clock going, excuse me. They gave the Ravens extra plays. Now, that wasn't the reason why the Seahawks lost the game, but that did not help. I think of the failed Mary. And now we got this. And it just seems that, I don't know, like, if you can think of other calls going for or against your team, please let me know. I would be interested. But it just seems that every single time where Seattle has either an opportunity to make a case that they are one of the prime teams in the NFL to compete with the championship, or every single time that they are in primetime television, the refs become the story. The refs become the story. And you know what? I'm tired of it. You know, and I used to be like the common Seahawk fan where, you know, everybody would complain about the officials. And what changed in my perspective is I am an official for Seattle Parks and Rec and GSVO, which stands for Greater Seattle Volleyball Officials. And I now have a different view on how calls are made, how calls are handled, what's the conduct, how do you handle the rules, you know, if somebody does screw up. I mean, at least in volleyball, I don't know if you guys know this, but in volleyball there's something called a replay, which is 2 thumbs up. So even if the ref screws up and they can't see what happened, they can just say, you know what, all right, we're doing it again. So at least, you know, they got that. But there's that, and also, after the failed Mary, I actually felt justified. I felt justified, you know what, the refs got a call wrong. They got a call wrong, and it benefited the Seattle Seahawks. You know what, I don't feel bad. Because all I could think of was all the controversial calls that did not go the Seattle's way. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, can Seattle actually get one? And now we have not one, but 2 calls on Monday night in less than a decade. And now everybody's talking about it on the internet. Everyone's talking about it on ESPN. And it's just like, really? We got to go through this again? I'm really hoping that I'm making a big deal over nothing. Because I know for a fact that, you know, I'm going to meet some football fans, you know, later on in the season, or they're going to show up on YouTube, or they're going to show up on Facebook, and they're going to say, oh, well, the only reason why you beat the Lions is because the refs screwed up. Really? Really? Again? And this is another thing that bothers me. They were talking on the pregame show. I was able to hear the pregame show. They were talking on the pregame show about how the officials are playing more of a role in the NFL today than they ever have before. And there were some guys who had played in the 80s, and, you know, in the era where face masking was allowed, so to speak. And they were talking about how the differences between refs now and refs then, and how everybody wants every single call to be correct, and every single person wants their team to have a fair chance. But because the referees are calling all these penalties, because right now the NFL is actually on pace to have the most penalties called throughout an entire season, because right now they're on an exponential function where something like 200 penalties, I believe that's what they said, over 200 penalties were called in week 2, and because of that, things are just, you know, skyrocketing in terms of the referees throwing the yellow flags. So you want the referees to make, you know, good calls and be even and have everybody, you know, have a fair chance of winning, yet the one time that they don't, they're just scrutinized. So you want them to call, but you don't want them to impact the flow of the game. It's slowing down the game, and it's getting to the point where, you know, all of a sudden, from what it seems like, oh my God, somebody just finger flicks, you know, the quarterback. Oh, that's roughing the passer. So you're not okay with this, but then you're not okay with the referees messing up and letting the players determine the outcome of the game, like this one. Like, really? I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's just this conversation. I thought we were done with this conversation. So again, I am happy the Seahawks won. I'm happy that Cam Chancellor is back, but I really am hoping. In conclusion, I am hoping that this controversy with the refs is not blown up out of proportion like it was before. In my opinion, at this point, the Seahawks lost this game. We'd be having a different conversation in the sense of, okay, they've done themselves in a 1-3 hole. They're going into Cincinnati next weekend. Okay, this might not be a good thing. But now they're back to 500, and they've protected their home field. So I would love to talk about that. But, again, the story is an NFL official got it wrong in Seattle again. So, in conclusion, I just really hope this doesn't blow out of proportion. And I know there's going to be some people who are going to say, oh, well, the only reason why Seattle beat Detroit is because they're... God, it's just... Yeah. I'm just going to leave it at that. I really am... It's unfortunate that this recap became a rant, but, you know, I'm really tired of this. I'm tired of the NFL officials picking the Seattle Seahawks or their games to either screw up, make mistakes, and then come out later and say, you know what, we made mistakes, we're sorry, or have the storyline be the officials, when it should be about how the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions played arguably the best defensive game of the year. That's what we should be talking about. But that's not the story according to social media and ESPN. Why? Because the freaking officials screwed up. So, anyway. I'll end on a more positive note. Here is an NFL scoreboard for you. The Pittsburgh Steelers fell to the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday, 23-20, to give the Ravens their first win of the season. So we got, now for the Sunday games, we have the New York Jets 27-14 over the Dolphins in London. Final in overtime, the Indianapolis Colts edge out the Jacksonville Jaguars 16-13. The New York Giants take down the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo 24-10. The Carolina Panthers defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 37-23. Carolina's now 4-0. How about that? I didn't see that one coming. The Washington Redskins outscore the Eagles by 3 points, 23-20 in Washington, D.C. Chicago Bears defeat the Oakland Raiders 22-20 to get their first win of the season. Oakland is now 2-2. The Atlanta Falcons stay undefeated as they hosted the Houston Texans and defeated them 48-21. The Cincinnati Bengals, the Seattle Seahawks' next opponent, took down the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City 36-21. They remain unbeaten at 4-0. The San Diego Chargers edged the Cleveland Browns in San Diego 30-27. Green Bay defeats the San Francisco 49ers 17-3. Oh, excuse me, not the San Francisco 49ers, the Santa Clara 49ers. My fault. I got to get the right name in there. And then the St. Louis Rams defeated the St. Louis Rams took down the Arizona Cardinals. Sorry, must have baseball in my mind. 24-22 to give the Arizona Cardinals their first loss of the season. Denver stays undefeated. The Broncos take down Minnesota 23-20. And then finally, the New Orleans Saints hand the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, their second loss in overtime, 26-20. And then, of course, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Detroit Lions in controversial fashion, 13-10. All right, so that will do it. Hopefully I'll be in a better mood tomorrow when I preview the Seattle-Cincinnati game. But, yeah, it's just... Yeah, I know I've said it at times, sometimes, I'm just tired of the Seattle Seahawks going into prime time, Monday night, whatever, and there's controversy with the refs. I mean, it's just like, that's the one time they decide to have an off day. I don't know. I mean, and again, if you want to list your team's bad luck with the refs, please do so for two reasons. One, I'd be interested to hear your take, and I would like to know, and number three, I would feel a lot better about the Seattle Seahawks history on the refs. So, all right, well, that will do it. Happy Monday Night Football. We'll talk to you later. I'll try to get this up tomorrow. The preview up tomorrow when the Seattle Seahawks take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, the Seattle Seahawks take down the Detroit Lions 13-10. Go Hawks.